Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of Vince. It is so good to have you here with me. I've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking to the inimitable Shawn Farash, who himself is kind of imitable of President Trump. He's very good at that. We'll definitely talk about that and everything else that's going on in the news. The great Shawn Farash from LFA TV joins us in just moments. You're going to hear from him. But first, got to thank the great sponsors of this program. That includes Patriot Mobile. You've got a lot of choices for cell phone service with new ones popping up all the time. But here's the truth. There's really only one that boldly stands in the gap for every American that believes that freedom is worth fighting for, and that's Patriot Mobile. The good news is you can switch to Patriot Mobile today without sacrificing quality or service. Worried about coverage? Don't be. Patriot Mobile uses all three of the major U.S. networks. If you have service in this country today, you will have as good or better coverage with Patriot Mobile. You think switching's a hassle? It's not. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or even upgrade. Do what I did. Get Patriot Mobile on your phone. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based team is going to get you activated in just minutes from the comfort of your own home. Stuck in a contract or owe money on your phones? No worries. Patriot Mobile has a contract buyout program. This is how we win, folks, by aligning our spending with our values. So every dollar that we spend matters. Go to patriotmobile.com/Vince or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Vince. Get a free month of service. Switch today. That's patriotmobile.com/Vince or call 972-PATRIOT. All right, we got an exciting show for you today. I'm excited because I love everything that my guest produces on social media and across the internet. He's always creating great stuff, and that's why I'm always so pleased to have a conversation with him face-to-face. Well, practically face-to-face. It's over the internet. But still, in person, we've got Shawn Farash, LFA TV's own Shawn Farash. Great to see you, Shawn. Thank you for doing this today.
Thanks for having me, Vince. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been looking forward to this since we got it on the calendar. I'm excited.
It's very good to have you here. So I know a lot of people know you as a Trump impersonator. That's definitely probably the way that I think most people are introduced to you. But what I've loved about your career is that you parlayed that into becoming a pretty sophisticated and insightful political commentator. Did you always have that in mind, that you were going to do political commentary?
Yeah, ever since sitting on the Tappan Zee Bridge in 2018 in the state of New York in bumper-to-bumper traffic on Memorial Day weekend, frustrated to all hell that I was never going to get to where I wanted to go. And then I looked down at my phone and I said, I got to put a podcast on. And I chose for the very first time in my life, the Dan Bongino Show. And he was flipping out about Spygate, which obviously 7 years later, like now, as all this stuff is coming to light, I'm sitting there going, finally, I've got the Epic Times infographic up on my wall. I mean, it's a whole thing. It became like my whole why. It was the reason why I wanted to, instead of doing sports, right, instead of doing all that, to get into news. It was that story and the way Dan broke it down and the way so many other people, very talented people, covered it and exposed everything from Devin Nunes to Kash Patel to Mark Levin and John Solomon and Paul Sperry, all of them, the whole roster of people who were going down the list when it came to Spygate. At that point in time, I said, I want to do something. I have to do something that really motivated me to make a difference. I didn't know things like that were going on in our country until that story really came to light. But when COVID struck New York and everybody, when I was living there, everybody had to live by the just insane rules of then Governor Andrew Cuomo, I was on Long Island and decided once again it's time to get people together. And after watching the Summer of Love and everything that took place in Seattle and Portland and Philadelphia and New York City, and you name blue jurisdiction, something happened, something crazy happened. I said, it's time, we put together some of these reopen the state rallies, but let's parlay that. Let's put that in tandem with let's get out and support Trump. And so we put tens of thousands of people on the road in these massive caravans with the flags hanging off people's tailgates and coming out people's sunroofs. And we got people together doing that. Obviously, 2020 didn't go the way we wanted for various reasons, right? Reasons that still haven't been answered. But we used that and we parlayed that and we transitioned that into a local and then statewide movement to get conservatives, Republicans involved. So I've taken the Bongino method of being an activist first and used that. And it was actually through that movement, a friend of mine, while we were door knocking for a city council candidate, she's in office now, Vicky Palladino, he said to me, you got to take that Trump thing that you do and you got to put it on TikTok. And I said, well, I don't want to, Jimmy, I don't want to do that. That's China. We don't want to do China. He said, no, you have to do that on the TikTok app. It'll go viral. You'll get a lot of people who are paying attention to what you're doing on Long Island and all this. So I did it and it took off. It's where I met my wife. It's like the best decision I made. So thank you, China. But
wait,
yeah,
your wife,
I never
did your wife,
quite,
did you, the expression is they slide into your DMs. Is that actually the way things started?
She slid into my comments. One of my videos I made, I used a line that is funny. I'll roll this line out in front of many people, and it gets a very mixed reaction. But she thought it was the funniest line. I was talking about William Shakespeare, Trump taking credit for William Shakespeare, right? And I said, I got along well with him. I called him Bill. Great guy. We call him Bill. And she thought that was the funniest line in creation. So she laughed at it. I saw her profile picture, and I said, okay, we've outkicked the coverage. If we can make this work, let's try it. So I slid into the DMs on Instagram like a good millennial would, and I take no pride in saying that, but it is how it worked out. She was in Florida at the time. I was in New York, and now we're both in Tennessee. Very happy. But yeah, it was that little act online, if you want to say that, right? That bit that I would do, and it's worked in many different places, radio stations and podcasts and all that. And now we're here, and it's been great. I always wanted to, like you said, that's how a lot of people will get introduced to me, and that's great. Yeah. That's wonderful, because it's a humorous way, and I guess an engaging way to talk about the current events without being too, blunt and hitting people over the head with a 2x4. Yeah. But then there is time to get serious, and it is time to break down, different outcomes and the way different processes work. And I think that's important too. So it's about striking that balance, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but yes. It has been fun up until this point, that's for sure.
Yeah, and look, you're a positive and joyful person. So you bring a lot of energy and happiness to this process, which can be tough sometimes. It can be soul-sucking, depressing to talk about politics, especially if you feel like there's no forward movement. It's like, is anything ever going to get better? So are you, Shawn Farash, are you optimistic right now? Are you feeling hopeful about where things are headed?
Yeah, I'm feeling hopeful about it. Cautiously optimistic, obviously. Donald Trump is one man, right? And there's only so much one man can do. So when it goes down to the halls of Congress, whether it's the House, whether it's the Senate, whether you're talking about rescissions packages now at the state level in multiple states, redistricting and having to bring representatives back into the chamber because they left. These are things that, Donald Trump necessarily can't directly influence. And so I think it's important for people to realize that one of the best ways, and I actually got a question on my show today about it, one of the best ways to make those differences is to start at the local level. Like your HOA president, if you live in one of those, I don't, thankfully, because I wish wouldn't get along with the policies, right? But your HOA president, in many ways, has more of a direct impact on your life than the president of the United States, right? Donald Trump's not the one fining you because a weed has leaned over onto your driveway, right? If you live in an HOA that's that strict, your HOA president is. So, your school board presidents, your county commissioners, your mayors, folks like that. I always say, if you want change to be made, start local, because when you make those changes in a local, jurisdiction, makes its way up the food chain to the state level. Multiple states then start copying each other. Just here in the state of Tennessee, they passed a gender-affirming care for minors ban. It was upheld by the Supreme Court. Other states are now taking that bill, copying it, pasting it. But these are things that started locally. These are things that started by men and women in our state legislature that you could bump into, at a restaurant here getting hot chicken, right? So everything good comes from being involved locally at the individual level. And it's how you grow that, how you water that flower and let it blossom, that really ultimately makes a difference. So for that reason, because I know people are capable of doing that, I'm incredibly optimistic, cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
I get that from, being a Jets fan. You mentioned I'm a joyous person, not during football season, because those guys take the joy. They suck my soul out every single year. But we throw them off to the wayside. We know that we're in control politically right now. We have the opportunity to win. Yeah. If everyone just takes a little bit of initiative, we'll get it done.
Well, you're good. So you're a Jets fan. If you keep your expectations low, you're always pleasantly surprised. And here you have, look, think about the last few years, though. I see people out there who are still blackpilling. Oh, nothing's ever going to get better. Everything's going to be destroyed. Well, hold on a second. The Roe v. Wade was overturned completely. That's a massive win. People in the United States desperately want borders, and the president is now reinforcing our sovereignty at our border. That's an 80-20, 90-10 issue. We've won on that issue. People want to fund the police. They don't want to defund the police. They want law enforcement in their community. We've easily won on that issue. And the issue you just mentioned out of Tennessee, but certainly all across the country, mutilating children, nobody's on board with that. Letting men play in women's sports, now nobody's on board with that. There used to be a lot of cowardice around those issues, but it was thanks to activists like you, Shawn, people who have fought for decency to be restored, that we've made a lot of headway. I mean, there's a lot of reason for celebration.
I'm glad you mentioned that there used to be cowardice surrounding those issues and there isn't anymore. Because for the folks who are saying nothing's happening, nothing ever happens, therefore nothing will happen. Well, it's not raining today, but that doesn't mean it can't rain tomorrow, right? I mean, it's very simple, right? And the other thing is, for years, I mean, Donald Trump first came a couple days ago was the 10-year anniversary of the first Republican presidential debate where Donald Trump iconically answered Megyn Kelly's question with "Only Rosie O'Donnell." The greatest response I've ever seen. It was the best, right? But that was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, making a statement about building a wall on the border and deporting illegal aliens was considered racist. It has taken 10 years to shift the Overton window enough where what was once considered racist is now considered common sense and is the other side of 80-20. It used to be 20% no. Now it's 20%. Now it's 80% yes. Bring these people, get these people out of our country. Right. So it took a decade just to get the concept, the common sense concept of if you came into the country illegally, you shouldn't be here. It took a decade to become acceptable. So for the folks who want every aspect of life to get better in 6 months or a year or 2 years, these are probably people that if you sat them down and had a face-to-face conversation, slipped them a little truth serum, they would admit that they cook their steaks in the microwave because they can't wait if it's on the grill. They don't care. They don't want to do it low and slow. Yeah. They want it now. And what you're sacrificing is you're sacrificing quality for time. You're going for that instant gratification. I always compare it like you want to eat a donut because it tastes good today. But if you keep eating donuts, you're gonna look like Chris Christie, right? He's a sloppy guy. You don't want to look like Chris Christie in the future because you ate too many donuts. So how about you make the sacrifices now and you be a little patient? Yeah. And you let these processes play out. And I'm fine with being skeptical. Again, Jets fan, cautiously optimistic, skeptical of people and things that they tell me good things are happening, right? Yeah. But I'm okay with skepticism, but not negativity and toxicity. Okay. The right people are in place now. I think we're going to see good things happen.
I love it. All right. In a moment, I want to continue with Shawn Farash. I'm going to ask you, Shawn, about whether or not people don't realize this. Maybe it's a good thing that the left is so crazy. More in just a moment. You already know the name, Blackout Coffee, probably the official coffee of all of us here at Silverlock, and there's a reason for that. This is bold, unapologetic, America First roasted, fresh right here in the United States. It's not grocery store junk. Blackout Coffee delivers rich, high-quality roasts that actually taste like freedom. And now you can set it and you can forget it with auto refill and recurring delivery. That means no more running out, no more watered-down backups, just your favorite roast delivered fresh on your schedule. And boy, it's delicious. One moment. Taking a sip. Whoa, that's Blackout Coffee. It's the best. Pick your favorite roast, how often you want it delivered. You can get the discount. You can get double the rewards, free shipping to your doorstep. What are you waiting for? Get that delicious cup of coffee. I drink mine black. You can drink it however you want, but it's really good. Here's what to do. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Use the code Vince. That's VINCE and get 20% off your first order. Whether you're into bold, dark roasts, flavored coffee, or even instant, Blackout's got your back. Real coffee, no compromise. Blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Get yours now. Blackout Coffee. Love that Blackout. All right, let me ask you, Shawn, about the left here. You know, I have a theory of the left, which is that their insanity only improves President Trump. That, yes, like, it is crazy the lengths to which they have gone to try to destroy him, from removing him from ballots to prosecuting him for absolute horseshit to, you know, in some cases, actually straight up shooting him, attempting to kill him, some of these lefties. They've gone absolutely crazy. But I do think that the effect of the left's craziness is it's only made stronger his resolve to help our country. Do you think maybe there's some sort of weird benefit from the left's craziness?
I think there is, because when you look at how crazy they are, and it's not just, about having crazy ideas now, like Bernie Sanders had, $15 an hour minimum wage, or Medicare for all, or some of these ideas that they would come out. There are now crazy actions. You've got adults, and I don't think many of these people are Republicans or Trump supporters, that are now relying on binkies to de-stress from the day. I mean, this is a story that's everywhere. They're sucking on pacifiers. I can't believe that these people walk among us, that I may be in the supermarket one day and go, that person right there with the blue hair and like the crazy look on it, they may be using a binky later to settle down before going to bed. Like, these people are grown babies, right? So I think a lot of the times when you have that malleable middle, okay, you have that group of people, the third party that's watching. You always hear, Dan said this all the time, when you're debating people online or you're debating left versus right, it's not about changing the liberal's mind. It's about influencing the middle to say, okay, that person's crazy. I may not like everything that right-wing guy is saying, but I can't get behind the crazy unhinged person, because how am I supposed to trust them, right? So I think with these 80-20 issues, the men can be women thing, the illegal aliens are people too. Nobody said they're not people. Yep. We're just saying that they don't belong in this country and shouldn't be taking advantage of the taxpayer. So I think, and it's the actions, burning the Teslas, the Kathy Griffin head, right? All of the Trump derangement. If Trump says it's bad. Well, I hereby endorse oxygen, so start holding your breath. This is the thing that I think is really working in the favor of Trump and the left, is that they've gone so far. Everything is Hitler. Everything is racism, that people look at that and go, okay, I may not agree with everything Donald Trump says, but that's nuts. And I can't get behind that. So I'm giving Trump a shot. There's a reason
the country was driven into Trump's arms. There's like 100%. Like, under normal circumstances, if the country was like functioning appropriately, you're going to pick the next sort of handsome or beautiful, sort of.
Well, I'm a handsome guy too, though, so I take offense to that, because I'm a very handsome person.
Yeah. Right? Okay. Fair. But beyond that, the kind of person who is very conventional in their presentation, you'd pick a conventional person. Instead, the country went all in on an unconventional person, somebody who doesn't always say the most polite thing. He can be a little vulgar at times. He's a little too direct for most people's tastes. But, as I'm reminded, I had a buddy in 2016 during the Republican primary who wrote an op-ed at the time that he was coming around to Trump. And the headline he chose for it was, "I don't like Trump, but I hate you." And that's what he was so furious at the left and the establishment that he's like, I'm going for Trump. I'm going for Trump in no small part because you hate Trump. I'm punishing you with Trump. And it's so weird that to this very day, they still seem completely stunned by the fact that President Trump can win via a democratic process in the United States.
Well, it's like one of Trump's main pitches to the black community, a lot of minority communities, where it was basically, what do you have to lose, right? Like, what are you afraid of losing? Have things gotten better with the alternative? Whether it's, a uniparty Republican, a soft, squishy rhino type, or it's one of these moderate or not so moderate radical leftist Democrats, has your life gotten better, right? The only people whose lives have gotten better from that are illegal aliens. And these are people who aren't supposed to be voting anyway. So you're asking these questions to people, whether they're leftists, whether they're people, again, in that malleable middle, the independents, the swayables, the fence sitters. And you're just basically saying, look, has life gotten better? Have they fulfilled their promises to you? And they're saying, no. Okay, so what do you have to lose? What you only stand to gain by taking a shot on somebody, as you said, unconventional. That's a perfect way to describe him, as Donald Trump, because he's unconventional, and this is the problem with the political system. He's unconventional when it comes to a politician, but he's very conventional, people like you and me. He's just like somebody you'd bump into in a bar in New York. Obviously, Trump doesn't drink, but you get what I'm saying. He's a normal dude. You bump into a guy in New York and you start having a conversation with a dude from Queens, you're basically having a conversation with a Donald Trump type person, yes. An average Joe, a normal guy. And that's the problem with politics. Everybody's got to be so polished and proper.
But also,
no, be like us.
But also, not only is he the normal dude at the bar, he's also everyone's favorite dude at the bar, actually. Because he's got a unique ability to make you, no matter who you are and no matter how many times, maybe you've never met him before at all, he'll make you feel like you're the most important person on the planet. You've met him, Shawn. I mean, it's a very unusual experience. He has an exceptional ability at retail politics, actually. The ability to convince someone that he's on their side.
Yeah. Yeah, I have met him. Actually, when I made I was able to do my bit to him, and it was probably the most stressful situation I have ever been in. We made it work in Bedminster, and he thought it was great, and I left the stage. I still have a knot on my back. But you're right, because before that happened, this was a fundraiser for January 6th defendants that night, and that's why I was there. He was actually spending time with the children of a family who was being railroaded by the government in January 6th proceedings, right? And these ridiculous charges, and she was a mother of 7 or so children. They were all up there, and he took the time. Cameras weren't rolling. He wasn't doing this because people were filming it, to sit and to stand there and to talk to these children and to console them and to say, listen, everything is going to be okay. It's fine. And, I wouldn't blame these kids, right, if they didn't understand it, saying, like, my mom's going to jail because of you, right? Donald Trump. That's not what I don't agree with that, but I'm saying I could understand why people would look at that and say, if my mom didn't like you so much, she wouldn't have even been there. But that's not how it was. He spent the time. He was like a grandfather to these children. And obviously he's a grandfather to his own grandkids, but he's very good with people, and it's not an act. It's not one of these people who are doing these grip and greets. Let me look good in front of the camera, and then they get on the plane and they start talking about how much they hate dealing with the people. He loves it. This is who he's been. When I worked for a paint company, not a painting company, but I sold paint, I had a contractor who painted parts of Trump Tower. And he said that Donald, and this is before Trump was running for office, so he had no political motivations to do this. He said Donald Trump would come up there and we're tipping his workers, large painting outfit, right? Large painting company, tipping his workers hundreds of dollars a day. This was back in 2014. So that's a lot more than what $100 gets you, this day and age. He was going up there, meeting them, bringing them tips and getting to know the people that were working on his building. This guy likes people, right? He likes to be around people. And I get it. There's this persona where he says nasty things about women and the whole thing, and this act that he put on in front of cameras. But that's just, him being, I think it's him being funny. He loves being around people. He makes everybody feel wanted. Everybody feels special. And it's one of the things that I have personally witnessed with other people, the lengths that he goes to show people that he appreciates them.
Yeah, I love it. All right, in a moment, I'm going to test your understanding, getting inside of his mind, because we're going to ask you to do a couple of impromptu, just spur the moment impressions. I've got some ideas that I'd like. I always think to myself, how would Donald Trump react to this? Well, we can test that today with Shawn Farash in just a moment. Hey, by any chance, have you heard of Keraluma? This is an edible cactus. It grows in India, and it's a natural appetite suppressant. Keraluma is just one of the natural ingredients that doctors added to a remarkable weight loss supplement that's called Lean. It's from Brickhouse Nutrition. If you've got a bold summer weight loss goal, but injections are not for you, here's what the doctors who formulated Lean have said. They said this supplement is as close as we've come to the benefits of those popular injections. Like injections, Brickhouse Nutrition's Lean was created to help maintain healthy blood sugar and help control appetite and cravings. But the rare ingredients in Lean are also designed to help burn fat by converting that fat into energy. And the best part, no needles, just real results. Their doctors created a healthier way to lose weight by capturing the power of natural ingredients. Like Keraluma, it's just smart. Let's get you started with 20% off. Just use the code Vince20 at takelean.com. That's code Vince20 at takelean.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and it's not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Our thanks to Brickhouse Nutrition. Also, I want to thank the great people at Birch Gold for supporting this program. Could the continued divide between Trump and the Federal Reserve actually put us behind the curve? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? And what could all of this mean for your savings? Well, consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. Now, for decades, gold has been viewed as the safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you've got an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free information kit on gold. All you have to do is text my name, Vince, to the number 989898. Again, text Vince to 989898. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. That way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can do it for yourself and your family. Data and message rates apply. All right, we continue with Shawn Farash here, who is, of course, the great host at LFA TV. Shawn, now we're going to put you to the test. This is the portion where I'm going to ask you to use the magic skill you have of impersonating the President of the United States, because I am always constantly wondering about all sorts of things the President doesn't talk about, although he talks about a lot. Let me start with the heroism of the man we know as Big Balls. Big Balls! This past weekend, Big Balls was in the streets of Washington, D.C., and quite unfortunately, he was attacked by a mob of out-of-control teenagers looking to carjack him and his lady. He defended his lady, pushed her into the vehicle, and then he turned to face the mob and undertook some sort of beating from a dozen different people. The police arrived, thankfully. But Big Balls, once again, performing an act of heroism. What would President Trump say to Big Balls if he had the chance?
Well, he would say that Big Balls did a tremendous job. He did a fantastic job. And, he has the second biggest balls in Washington, D.C., because I'm President Big Balls. They call me Biggest Balls. Nobody's got it. Nobody's got a bigger set. I can tell you that. We even talked about it on the debate stage with Marco Rubio not too long ago, back when he was little Marco. He's medium-sized Marco now. He's getting bigger. He's doing a great job. But I would say to Big Balls, tremendous job. But if it were me, I wouldn't have gotten beat up so badly, right? I would have taken care of those people. But you still did a tremendous job. And we're going to award Big Balls the Medal of Freedom. I think we should do that. And we're going to call it Operation Big Balls when we clean up Washington, D.C. But he did a tremendous job.
That's fantastic. I completely agree with all that. Fully endorsed Medal of Freedom for Big Balls. And again, I think the night, you know what could happen? You could actually help the president out a lot. He could focus on being in the Situation Room, and you could just do his public commentary for him. It's not many times that you can do that, where you can be in two places at once. I think if Shawn Farash gets recruited by the White House, that'd be possible. All right, let's explore another scenario. The President of the United States, I'd like to get an advanced picture of what this looks like, is right now considering meeting directly with Vladimir Putin to settle up the Russia-Ukraine war. Take us inside the room, Shawn. What's that going to be like as the president talks to Vladimir Putin?
Well, we get along well with Putin. I've always got along well with Putin. And in my first term, I sent them, they call them nesting dolls. They're matryoshka, right? You start off with a big one. It looks like Rosie O'Donnell, right? And you open it up and it gets smaller and smaller. You went from Rosie O'Donnell to the Beast of the Southeast. I call her Stacey Abrams, the Beast of the Southeast. She's horrible. And you get smaller and smaller and smaller until you hit the little tiny governor of Florida, who I happen to like a lot, Ron DeSanctimonious, who used to be DeSanctimonious. Now he's DeSantis. He wanted to be my vice president. I said, no, you have a better shot at being the mayor of Munchkinland, even in your boots. But we love Ron. He's a great guy. But we're going to meet with Putin. We get along well. Crooked Joe did not get along well with Putin. They called it Tootin' with Putin. He had a horrible time with him. And Vladimir Putin did not want to go near him. But Putin likes me. I like him. There was no collusion, of course, but we get along well. We have a great relationship. And we're going to make a deal. We're going to make a deal. And he's going to be very happy about it. And we're going to be very happy about it. The United States and Russia are going to make a deal.
I love it. That's great. So when that happens, by the way, when that all goes down, just know that you heard it here first. Shawn Farash shared that. All right, and then finally, for you, one of President Trump's favorite topics is a congresswoman from Texas by the name of Jasmine Crockett. This past week, the New York Post reported that not only is she a lunatic in public, she's a tyrant to her staff. She treats them like utter garbage. And spends most of her time when she's not on television screeching about racism. She just lays up in her luxury apartment and pretends to do work there. If you could share with us the president's latest thoughts on Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Well, this is what we call her. You know, you have Nurse Hatchet from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This is Nurse Ratchet, right? Jasmine Crockett. She's really terrible. And you look at her, she's got the biggest eyelashes the world has ever seen. If she blinks, you may fly away. You may be blown over. It really is terrible. But you look at her, you look at what they're doing. She called my good friend Governor Greg Abbott, she called him Hot Wheels, which is not a nice thing to say. I would never say that. But she said it. And now they're going to redistrict her position away. And she's very unhappy about it. But I'll tell you what, America's very happy about it. They want Nurse Ratchet out of Congress. We do not need that type of representation for her people. You know, the people of Dallas, even though a lot of them are Cowboys fans, which we have a lot of questions about, they're not that stupid. They're not that stupid. And they would like a better representative. So if she wants to lay around in her apartment and she wants to be what's called an influencer, she could do that. She needs to get the hell out of Congress, and she needs to trim those eyelashes. They're getting way too long, and we don't have enough room for it. And when she blinks, she starts knocking things over. So she ought to be ashamed of herself, and she's going to have no position going forward, which we're very happy about.
All right. From now on, every headline I read that says Jasmine Crockett lashes out is going to be read very differently. Thank you very much, Shawn Farash, brother. It's so great to see you, Shawn Farash of LFA TV. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I really loved it. It was a good time.
It was a great time. You made it great. Thanks, Shawn. All right, that's it. That wraps us up. I'm back with you tomorrow live from Washington, D.C. I had a fantastic week in Florida, hanging out in the Florida studio. How cool is this? Justin mostly did his job correctly and everything. It was awesome. It was really great. Great to be with you as always. Make sure to subscribe if this is the first time you're seeing this, either to the podcast or rumble.com/Vince. And check out that national radio show, 12 to 3 Eastern each weekday, rumble.com/Vince, or go to thevinceshow.com and look up your local radio listings. See you soon.